Today is December the 2nd, 2011. I'm here with Dr. C.T. Vivian, which is a well-known civil rights activist and a transformational leader. And I'm just going to ask him a couple of questions about transformational leadership and how it relates to his experience as a leader in our community, in our world, in our nation. So Dr. C.T. Vivian, I want to thank you for taking this time out of your schedule.
Thank you, my brother.
If you could just start out by telling me a little bit about the importance of transformational leadership versus transactional leadership.
Well, I don't want to do a versus as much as I want to talk about transformational leadership. Is that this is what it's all about. How do we transform people's lives? How do we in fact do that? It's what I learned in the civil rights movement. It's in the action we find out who we are. It's in the action that we find out what our nation is like, our environment, in fact, in which we have to work. Otherwise, one can get really wrong off the subject and not be able to think solidly and come out with understandings that are based. I've come to some kind of understandings that for instance, it becomes very clear that the conclusions we come to are often based on myth, based on what we think we know. It's only in the action that we really learn. All right. It's out of that our action is authentic. It's the authentic actions transform people. All right, they take us to the next level. We see it as we begin to see our world differently. Everyone that was in the civil rights movement was in the action. You see, and that's what made us all authentic. Made us authentic leaders across the world. The world now is being transformed by an understanding of what we did in the civil rights movement. They are in fact imitating what we've done. Right? They sing the same songs because they're learning and they're imitating what we did. Right? It's not an accident that here we have Martin King. Right, from a denomination that was considered by most other religious educators in this country as at the bottom. Right, black church is at the bottom of their thinking. Yet the black church produced a Martin King. Of all of the ministers that have ever preached in America, all of them have been educated in America, all right? All of them have followed the guidelines of American life and thought, right? Is that none of them have won the awards that he has won, or and the only non-president on the American Mall, much less the only minister, right?
Right.
Is Martin King, right?
Right.
Is that it's this finding out that what he did that's hardly talked about is that he made us very sure that action was the thing that counts. Now let's get to the other piece of that. Is that it's not only in the action, right, but that come to the understanding that only moral and spiritual action begins to change the culture, right, in a positive way that can remake it. Right? It's right there that makes the difference.
That's some good stuff. When you say authentic, how do, as a upcoming leader myself, how do you make sure that you understand the difference between imitating, as you said, leaders of the past, and understanding the importance of being authentic and getting to a place where you understand I guess, the understanding of what your purpose is as a leader instead of imitating others?
Well, by doing it. See, by being in the action, you know you're authentic. You see what's authentic around you. All right. If we had asked a few years ago, if we had 50 years ago now, if you had all your life, but had we asked who are the great religious leaders, right? It would have been who was the most powerful preacher from a pulpit.
Right.
Now we know that's not true.
Right.
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 But Christ already knew it. Is that because it had nothing to do with verbiage? Has something to do with values, something to do with not values as stated with noise and talk, but values that move from one to the other in activity. All right, that's what makes the difference. Okay, is that this is how we really know. Right.
And I'm going to ask you two more questions. I'm going to let you go because I know your time is precious.
And I've got this. I've got the other thing on my mind anyway, so it's not my best. So let's go. How are you?
What is the most, during your time as a civil rights leader and traveling the world, what is the most memorable moment where you actually saw yourself as a transactional leader? I mean, as a transformational leader, or saw someone else that was in your circle?
Dealing with gangs in Chicago.
Okay.
The Stones, these, and the Lords, right? They were killing each other, right? That's how they beat on their chests and so how great they were, and talking about their turf, right? Well, they didn't own anything.
Right.
They could hardly feed themselves, you see, but they tried with each other. So they had the essential spirit. They knew they needed each other. They didn't have the wherewithal to do it. But even if you'd given it to them just as money, they may have ended up fighting over it, all right, because of the very nature of the situation. When we were able to give them an alternative and organize them around an alternative that would be good for all of them, it changed them. We were able, through their efforts, not my talking for them, right? I was talking for them, but they were doing the action. We had them doing nonviolent direct action, right? And they ended up being able to have the city to give 20,000 jobs over a 4-year period, over a 5-year period, 4,000 jobs a year for 5 years, making Daley, the mayor then, sign off on 20,000 jobs for them. Not sweeping floors, but jobs in the unions, right? So in the 16 unions that went in the construction industry, right? We were able to get at least sign off for 20,000 jobs.
Wow.
Right? Well, that changed these fellows, right? Because they began to understand that they had purpose. In fact, instead of calling them gangs, right, we changed that language for them, right? And we saw them not as gangs, but as nations. They became the Peace Stone Nation, right? Not the Peace Stone Gang.
Wow.
See what I mean? We had them to begin to understand themselves as not somebody that needed to fight each other, but I remember at a meeting when they really finally came together. But we'd been working with them for 4 months by that time, right? And we had a meeting where when I said we're no longer the South Side and the North Side, we are the Black Side, right? And boy, they stood up and cheered. Well, and there were all kinds of guys in that room from all the gangs, right?
Yes, sir.
And we knew that they had the making of being a nation now. See, I mean, a whole different understanding of themselves is what we're talking about.
So
And then they began to work together.
right.
These fellows would fight each other in the field. See, that made the difference. Now, the police was trying to destroy that.
Right.
The police were trying to destroy that rather than help it. Whether they understood it or not, we did. All right?
Well, I appreciate you,
Sure.
Dr. Vivian.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right.